Because yeah, we used to actually like physically put CDs in on the radio. It's just like such a weird time, but obviously those are not useful anymore. So we, one of the hosts who work here is also just like really good at Photoshop. So she created this like over a year's time, and we just got
Cool.
it all vinyled on there for photo
Wow.
stuff.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
So you just finished your shift at the
Yeah.
radio station. So what do you have like a regular shift that you do, or is it different every day?
Yeah, I do it 2 to 6 o'clock. So that is like the drive home time.
Nice.
But yeah, I usually come in a lot earlier than that, but that's the time I'm on air. So it looks like I work 4 hours a day, but
Yeah.
a little bit more than that. Yeah.
So maybe let's talk about or start with how did you get into radio?
Sure. Yeah. I started, well, I guess like I'll start with like the interest in radio. I was like really into theater in high school and music, and I really loved performing, but both my parents, they went to theater school and they are not in theater anymore. And they're like, it's not the best thing to get into if you want, a steady job. You're going to have to really like fight for gigs and have a lot of, um, rejection and stuff, but it is fun, but it might not be, the most stable thing to get into. And I understood that, but I still like wanted some aspect of like creativity and performing in my job. And it happened that my sister was going into real estate at BCIT, and she said that she was friends with all the people who were in the broadcasting program, like the radio broadcasting program.
Yeah.
She was like, they just all remind me of you, and I think you'll really fit in with the crew there. I don't even know what the job entails, but you should just look into it. So I looked into it, and it just like hit every mark. It was, communications with, yeah, performance. Then there's the creative aspect, and of course music was heavily involved in it too. So it just kind of seemed like the perfect fit. So I ended up getting into that program. It was 2 years at BCIT, and with that you get like an internship and everything. So you kind of do a lot of work experience, because I mean there's not a lot you can learn in the books when it comes to radio. You can learn
Yeah.
about the laws and everything around it, but
And are
um,
you from Vancouver?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I am from, well, I like grew up in North Van, and mainly Coquitlam. Like Coquitlam's where I went to high school.
Hmm.
So going to like the Burnaby campus was pretty, yeah, made sense in
Yeah.
that case. I like moved out and yeah, just went to school in Burnaby.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then after that program, so you have an internship? Did you have one with the radio station in Vancouver, or how did you kind of get over here?
I actually like listened to the radio station that I work at now, which is The Zone. It's like a modern rock station. And I
Yeah.
really liked listening to it when I was in Vancouver. You could like get it in certain areas. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you go close to like Tawasin and you could hear it. Like in Coquitlam, you could kind of hear it. Randomly, like in Squamish, I think you could hear it.
Yeah.
I really loved it. And I just liked the way the DJs presented. It just felt really like natural, and I loved the music. So I got my internship at in Victoria at
Cool.
this station, because I wanted to work here eventually.
Yeah.
Um, and I didn't get a job right after, because it's kind of, a timing thing. And
Hmm.
also I was straight out of school, so I wasn't expecting to get it right away, but I just wanted to make those connections. And then
Yeah.
I ended up going to Prince George
Oh,
for my first job, because you usually start like in a small market, like a really small town, and work your way into like larger markets. Like Vancouver would be like an example of like a larger market in Canada.
okay.
So yeah, I went to Prince George for a few months and then finally got a job here.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Like you were saying you're on the air for 4 hours, but what do you do for the other 4 hours? Or is it
So
an
my
8 hour shift?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's kind of like however, whatever you kind of want to put into it.
Okay.
So technically, I guess I only really have to be here for the 4 hours, but
Okay.
a lot of just like preparing for the show. There's production elements as well. So for our show, we do like a pre recorded intro, which is almost like a theater of the mind intro, where we'll take like a piece of news and make it into like a sort of a skit, people would say it would be
Yeah.
called. It's called like SNL, but just audio only, that
Yeah.
sort of vibe. Just
Yeah.
like making jokes or whatever. So we have that all pre-recorded and edited up before the show.
Okay.
Also just like cruising the internet to see what we should talk about. And yeah, then there's a lot of like other things that I do with like the Band of the Month program. So just contacting local bands to get them involved at the station. And yeah, there's a few other things without boring. It's just, yeah, a few other production elements as well that goes into the show. And that's part of my job description too.
So I guess if you're on the way home, I don't listen to the radio that often. I listen to podcasts and whatever, but sometimes when I'm on my way home, I listen to the Zone, and it's the 5 o'clock mixtape, which I always try to catch. And so you're usually, I guess, would be on in that time, but that 5 o'clock mixtape, I guess, is it that like pre-done by the guy that does the mixtape?
Right now, it's all pre-recorded, just because Brian, who does the mixtape, he is working from home.
Okay.
So usually we would have Brian in at 5 o'clock. Like, it was so fun. It was like my favorite part of the day, because it'd be like me, Paul, who's my co-host, and Brian, and we just kind of like, he'd have his DJ deck set up, and we had to play it really loud in the studio. So it'd be like super loud, and we just kind of be like jamming together and hanging out at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was all live, which was super fun. And yeah, it just had like this wild, fun energy about it. Now, I mean, it's still awesome. Like, I love the mixtape so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is all pre-recorded just due to, the times.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And has COVID, like, how long have you been in your job now at the Zone?
So I think I started in 2015, I want to say. I started as an evening and weekend host. And then I've been in the afternoon position for a few years now. I'm really bad with time and stuff. Like, I have no idea how long I've been here, but I think it's been a few years in the afternoon position. Yeah.
Okay. And how has COVID affected the radio business?
Yeah. I mean, it was really strange when we started getting the news that, yeah, we were getting hit with a pandemic, because I don't want to say like frontline, but like we're the ones who give that information to the public,
Mhm.
right? So we're trying to take it in and process it ourselves, but also present it to the public. And I remember like when it first hit, it was really scary, and like my anxiety was through the roof, and everyone was sent home except for the on-air hosts. So the whole office was just like dead, right?
Yeah.
And then it was us, and we're like, are we supposed to be in the studio together right now? Like,
Yeah.
are we in danger? What's happening? But we kind of had to, because we had to give the information to the public.
Right.
So it was such a weird time, and no one really knew what to do. And I think it's the same for really any industry. No one knows what to do in that situation. But yeah, it was interesting. So right now we've gotten to a place where we have like plexiglass in here. Like, there's plexiglass in between each little on-air station, like any microphone. We all
Okay.
have our own little like microphone sock things that we have. And anyone who can work from home is working from home.
Are some of the radio hosts working from home, or were they? Because I feel like I was listening to the radio and some of them were talking about being at home.
Yeah, so Brian Boitano is now working on the weekends. And he, who is the DJ as well
Mhm.
for the mixtape, he is working from home, doing his show from his house as well. So he has all this like remote equipment, so he can, broadcast a show live from his house.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so wild.
Cool.
I'm
Yeah.
like very thankful I get to come into the studio every
Yeah.
day. But yeah, I can imagine like being in my bed and broadcasting a radio show.
Yeah, it seems weird. Yeah.
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 Um, but yeah, I think like it is still kind of a ghost town in the station as a whole, and different departments like sales, they're not coming in, creative team, they're not coming in.
You can do it remotely, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I just learned recently about these podcasts that you guys do from the zone, or people from the zone are doing podcasts. Can you tell me about those?
Yeah, so I started, in the last couple years, where, there's a lot of things that we're not super comfortable talking about on the radio yet, just because you are
Mhm.
like tied to a company, right? Like you
Yeah.
are the voice of a company. Um, and I love podcasts because they're just like so free form, and you can talk about whatever you want or whatever you're like, you need to talk about. There's that feeling where you're
Yeah.
like, I need to talk about this.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of a cool platform where we could kind of dive into that. We have the Geek Out podcast, which is a few members of the station. And that just started because it was Paul Pastino, Webmeister Bud, Kristen James, Art Aronson, and Brian Boitano. They just love anything nerdy, like Marvel and anything geeky. I don't know. I'm not in that podcast, so I don't
Yeah.
know. For a reason I'm not. But it's so great because they just geek out on everything pop culture, and
Cool.
it's kind of just like a nice release for them, and really fun to listen to, even if you, like me, I'm not into Marvel or anything like that, but it's super
Yeah.
fun to listen to.
Hearing them talk. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's a sports podcast called Between the Stammers, which is all Canucks based. And then I have a podcast as well, and it's called The Rag,
Right.
which is it started as like talking about menstruation and period care, and just kind of breaking the stigma around that, and just kind of having open conversations about periods.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of grown into just an overall sexual health podcast, relationship podcast. And it's hosted by myself and Crystal Dash, who's so funny. I love her. She's hilarious. And we just have guests on who are not experts necessarily, but they can be experts in a field, or if they just want to share a story about something that we don't really talk about, we kind of like leave it to Google.
Yeah.
Or we're not. Yeah.
Cool. And
I
so
learned
how does that
lot.
work with like do you do it at work, or do you guys just do it on your own time, or how does that work with the company?
So I mean, I don't even know if I'm allowed to be doing this. I'm not making any money from it. So yeah. I use the studio here. We have access to the studio, so I'm able to
Right.
record here. And then right now it's all Zoom, right? So
Right.
Crystal and I are on Zoom, and then our guest is usually Zooming it as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have a good setup to just be there. It's probably all
Yeah,
soundproofed and whatever.
Yeah, I was like, should I get a home studio right now so that I can do all these, side things? But yes, I should. I think the answer is, but it's also just like very convenient having the tools at work.
Yeah, it's hard. I used to do podcasts with people in person. I'd go to like their salon or their house or whatever. And then now it's all over Zoom, but I've been researching like how can it sound better, and if you're near lots of fabric or whatever, then it's apparently better. And so I do it in the bedroom so that it like bounces off the bed and whatever, but better than the kitchen table or whatever. So yeah, it's interesting doing it at home, all the different things that you have to think about when you're in a studio. It's all set up for you.
That's totally it. Yeah, you'll
Yeah.
like notice, you'll hear someone who's in a very echoey room, and
Yeah.
all you hear
The
when you're doing
echo.
that. I know. I think like one of the best tips that I've gotten was just, if you have any like recording to do, like if you want to do like a promo for your podcast or something, do it in a closet.
Yeah. People
Just
say,
like
or like have a
have a
blanket
closet.
over you.
Yeah. Some of the makeshift studios that I've seen are impressive. Like, people are like, I've made a mattress fort with a blanket over top, and this is where I do my podcast.
Best sound.
And
Yeah.
also convenient because forts are the best. So it's nice.
Exactly. And it's so convenient doing it at home. Like you can be doing whatever and then be like, okay, I have a podcast and right now. And so then rather than driving an hour to meet somebody or whatever, you can just go sit down and do it. So
Totally.
yeah,
That's
it's very
amazing.
convenient.
So how did your podcast start? I don't know if I'm supposed to be asking you
No,
questions.
you go ahead.
Yeah.
My podcast started because I wanted to find a new hobby and just try something new. And so I started Googling and YouTubing, and that's really how I started it. And so I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do something about the local and supporting local and that kind of idea. And so I thought that it would be a good time to do it, especially now with the pandemic and everything, and supporting local is kind of like front of mind for everybody right now. So yeah, that's how the idea came up, and it was kind of around the end of summer when the outdoor hobbies were going to be ending. So I thought, what am I going to do all winter time when the pandemic's around and I can't hang out with my friends or my family? So yeah, I decided that I'd start this. And at the beginning, we didn't have as much restrictions with the pandemic, so I was going and meeting people, and I love I love that part of it, and seeing their business and seeing their salons or seeing their house and hanging out with them. And then now it's all over Zoom. But yeah, I'd love to just chat with people. And so it's almost more like a learning thing for me. I'm learning how to edit it all and learning how to do the social media part of it and grow that. So it's been more of almost a learning experience for myself. So yeah, it's been really cool, but it's getting more traction as time goes on and more people are hearing about it. It's all really just about getting it out there. And podcasts, there's not much data on who listens to it, so I just
Mhm.
have to hope that it's getting perceived well, and there's not much you can really see as to how well it's going. So it's kind of just blindly putting it out there and seeing who follows you on Instagram, or how many downloads you get, but that doesn't really give you any idea of who listens to it. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point that you made, that like you just kind of release it, you press a button and it's like, okay, it's out there. Now what? Like I can't really
Yeah,
tell if it's like getting any traction. Like I can't really see if it's sticking with people. I don't know. And yeah, that's what's
exactly.
so interesting and scary about podcasts. Cause like say if you were to have like a live performance or something like that, you can physically see how many people bought tickets and you can see them in the seats and you can like,
Yeah.
yeah, you can actually like see the product, I guess. But here you just release it and that's it. And it's like the same with radio too. We never know who's listening,
You're
how
talking
many
about
people are
Joe Live.
listening, and then all of a sudden you'll get a text message and you're like, okay, so they just heard that, right? Okay, cool. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, with
Um,
radio, I guess it's the same thing. You don't know who's, because it's on their car stereo, I guess. Unless if they're listening online, can you tell how many people are listening or?
not at that moment, but we get like, data to say like how many people have streamed
Okay.
over a certain amount of time. And
Their
there's
cars, I
not
guess you
really
would know.
there's no measurement with like the car really.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel like there
which is
needs to be
really
better data on like radio and podcasts just to know who you're hitting and who you're talking to. It's so
totally.
hard, yeah. That's why
Yeah,
I'm
so
always like, download the episode and then like delete it right after. It doesn't matter, but it's just
yeah.
download it and then I can see that you're listening to it, because that's the only way I can see. But actually, I recently signed up for this thing called Pod Status, and it sends me an email every day as to where my podcast is in the Apple Podcast charts in Canada.
Oh,
And
that's
so it's
cool.
actually interesting getting those emails, because it's another way for me to kind of tell who's listening, and or not who's listening, but how many people are, and if I release a new episode, is it going up or down or whatever. So that's another thing that I just started this week, and it sends me an email every day. So that's interesting. So yeah,
That's
it's
really cool.
trying to
I
find
want
new
to sign
ways
up for
to,
that.
yeah, sign up for it. It's saying it's like $5 a month or something, but I was like, oh, it's worth it for me to know how I'm doing.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It feels
yeah,
like a little peace of mind
yeah,
when numbers
okay, we're doing okay. Yeah.
you. What's so interesting about that? You're like, there needs to be more data. It's so funny because radio's been around for so long, but the way that we have this thing called like ratings periods
Okay.
where we see like how many people are listening during a certain day part. And then in that area. So say in Victoria, they'll do like this station has the most listeners in this demographic, and it'll like list it all out, and it helps with sales. So
Mm,
when we like sell advertising and things like that. But
right.
the way that they get the data is so old school. Like they actually mail it to people. They mail a little card that is like a survey, and they have to check out like who they are, how old they are, if they're listening in Victoria, what station they listen to at certain times, and they have to physically mail it back.
Oh my
And you
god.
think about like how many people would actually do that. I wouldn't do that if I
No,
got
just throw
mail.
it
I'd be like,
away.
go into the recycling. Who
Yeah.
cares?
Well,
So
on the do you have what podcast host do you use for your podcast?
I use SoundCloud, so I get like a bit of data,
Yeah.
just like the premium account or whatever. So it's like it'll show you where the listeners are and if they
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I use Buzzsprout, and it's like the same thing. You can see what towns people are listening in and what percentage. But that's the same thing. That's it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so weird. Yeah.
But I love that like this podcast for you. Like it sounds like such a great way to meet friends in
It
areas you would
is.
never meet people,
And
especially
like
now.
reconnecting with people too that I
Right.
like haven't talked to since high school or something, and or especially with the pandemic, I'm not hanging out with many people or going out anywhere, so then it's like, oh well, let's get together on a Zoom call and just record it for fun. And so yeah, it's really interesting to reconnect with people, and yeah, meet people that like me and you probably would have never crossed paths or anything
Totally.
otherwise. So yeah, it's so interesting to meet all these people and learn their stories, and yeah, so it's really cool.
I also like the idea of like that dynamic of like someone you haven't talked to since high school and then calling them up randomly for a podcast. I think
It's
that's like,
honestly more
thing
nerve-wracking
to
than a
do.
stranger.
I would think so. Yeah.
Like the girl that I just interviewed before you, me and her haven't talked since high school, and like right before the call it's like a little bit nerve-wracking. It's like, oh gosh. But then as soon as we start talking, it's totally fine. But
Right.
it is almost more nerve-wracking than just a stranger that has no preconceived anything of you. So it's weird talking to people that you haven't talked to for a long time, but then you reconnect and it's like, oh, we could be like actually good friends because we talked for like 2 hours, and when before in high school I don't think we even really talked that much. So yeah, it's so interesting reconnecting with people, and then yeah, be having the ability to message people on Instagram and Facebook when like really there's no reason to message them otherwise, and there's no point in it. But when you have an opportunity like this, everyone wants to get their business out there, so, or their story. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's so
I
interesting.
have to say, like, if anyone's feeling lonely or like, yeah, want or like new to a city, just like start a podcast and you'll meet a lot
Totally.
of people. Like that's a great way. It's like you can do Tinder and do Bumble, BFF or whatever, or
Yeah,
just do a podcast and pretend it was like, oh, it was so natural the way we met, even though I planned the whole thing to like come on my
it would be a
podcast.
great way to meet everybody. And even like I've lived here for years, and I well, I grew up in Duncan, but the whole island kind of, there's people from Nanaimo and Victoria and Duncan and Mill Bay, and it's so interesting to just meet people kind of all around. And when even before the pandemic, I feel like my circle was quite small, with like the small town kind of vibe where I only had a couple close friends and all my family, and I sometimes knew people because they were friends of my family or something, but now there's such a bigger circle. So maybe when the pandemic's over, I'll have a big friend circle.
Yeah, all over the place. That's
Yeah,
great.
I know
Are you
people
in
all over.
Duncan right now?
I'm in Shawnigan Lake.
Shawnigan. Oh, I love
Yeah,
Shawnigan.
I
Do you like
know.
living there?
I love it. We moved here in May. We used to live, grew up in Duncan and then lived in Lake Cowichan for a little bit. And then me and my boyfriend lived in Langford together. And then, which I loved Langford as well. And then we moved to Shawnigan in May here, and it's so amazing. I love it. Especially in the summertime. We have like a garden outside. It's like quiet. It's great. I love it.
I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people are really like leaning into that right now. Like if you don't feel like look at real estate, like the amount of houses that are just getting like snatched up right now because people are
In
just staying
Shawnigan,
home
yeah.
and they're selling their condos and wanting more space. And places like Shawnigan just seem like so appealing because you can
And
have that space, even though it's getting pretty expensive now.
it
But
is. It's not like the boonies anymore. It's there's big developments happening, lots of new neighborhoods and that kind of thing happening out here. So I think there'll be lots more development out here. It'll probably turn into just another part of Victoria. It'll just come, or maybe merge into Duncan. I'm not sure which way it'll go, but I feel like it'll eventually
yeah,
just be less separated, because right now it's almost like we're in the middle. Like when we're going to go grocery shopping or something on the weekend, we're like, should we go to Langford or should we go to Duncan? Like it's half an hour either way. We're kind of in the middle here. And so it could either expand to either way. I'm not sure which way it'll go, but it's definitely getting really popular.
I could see that happening for sure. And just
Yeah.
like being so close to a beautiful, huge lake,
Yeah.
so ideal. Of course, it's gonna
Yeah.
bring a lot of people, but like I don't want to move there because I like want it to stay the way it is too. You know, like if I move there, then so is hundreds of other people gonna be doing the same thing, and that's what
No,
makes it
keep it a
special.
secret.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. I lived in Lake Cowichan. I feel like I'm almost more partial to Lake Cowichan. Like we live right here at the lake, but we'd like drive an hour to Lake Cowichan still in the summertime and go to Lake Cowichan. Like my family lives there too, but it's so weird. Like I think we only went to the Shawnigan Lake like twice last summer. It's so funny. And the rest of the times we went to Lake Cowichan.
Right.
I live like 5 minutes from the lake, but
I
it's
feel like Shawnigan's one of those places, like if you know someone who has a property on the lake, then you're going to spend a lot of time there, or if you yourself have a property on the lake. But if you're like on the outside, like is there a lot of access, like public access, or is it just
no.
one park?
That's the other problem is this summer we were trying to find like good places to go, and there's Mason's Beach, which we live right near, or there's like a provincial park with a big parking lot and grassy area, or there's like a couple other weird little access parks, but there's maybe 4 places to go swimming
Oh,
at the lake, which like publicly it's all very privately owned. So that's the other thing. Lake Cowichan has a lot more like beaches and that kind of thing, and so yeah, it's a very privately owned, so it's harder to get to the lake if you don't have an access, like your own
totally.
access, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the other thing with it's different. And it's a smaller lake too. So it's yeah. I think I'm just more partial to Lake Cowichan.
No, that makes sense. And it's also just like fun to get out of the place that you're living. Like
Yeah, like
everything.
I live here, so it's like old news now.
Yeah. No,
Let's not go 5 minutes down the road. I used to love the quarry, but they shut that down as soon as we moved
I
here.
never went.
What?
I know. I was so sad. And then that summer,
Missed
like
your
I was going to, and
opportunity.
then it was like shut down. I'm hopeful though. I'm hopeful that it'll
Maybe
get
one day.
hot. And
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. It's like a little hidden gem. Well, it's not hidden anymore, but it's amazing. It was like clear water. I used to love going there when I was in high school. It was so much fun. I didn't
I've
even
heard
know
that's like,
about it until I was in high school, and then I would go there all the time. Nobody even told me. And so we had a rugby party, this girl that lived down the road from the quarry, and she's like, let's go to the water. And I was like, okay. And then I told my whole family about it. And then it's like this chain reaction, but I didn't even know about it for the longest time. And I lived right in Duncan. So
wow.
it was hidden for a while, but apparently people knew about it for a long time before that.
I heard that was like the place where everyone who like grew up there would just go and party, and it was
Yeah, it's definitely a party place for teenagers, and that's kind of where the danger starts to happen, because you can like get your truck and like quad and whatever in there, and I think somebody died like on their quad or ATV or something, and that's why it's shut down. But yeah, so it can be dangerous, but if you're just using it for swimming, it's a great swimming spot.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks that like in order for it to really work out, it will need like some sort of authority like managing it, I would
Yeah.
assume, for it to be safe for the public to use. Cause yeah, that does happen. And then
Yeah.
who's liable is the person who owns the property who's like,
Exactly.
well, I'm just trying to let you guys onto our property and enjoy it. But
I can't believe it was privately ownned too. Like I didn't
yeah,
really know. I didn't ever really thought about like whose property it was, but
right. I'm just stomping in there, ready for a
just
swim,
walked in.
going into my
But
neighbor's pond.
yeah, it's almost like a little pond. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was so nice. So yeah, I hope one day it reopens, and maybe if it gets bought, because walking down to the water can be kind of sketchy. Like you're walking along this like dirt path with like a a fence on one side, and it's not the easiest to access. But if it was actually bought by like the city or something, or the town, then maybe they could actually put
Make it
stairs in or
easier.
something, or I don't know, something better to access it. So it would be cool if it got like groomed and nicely made into a nice swimming spot. It's
Mhm.
so busy. It was so busy in the summertime. Like you'd go in there, just be lines of cars down the road each way, and it was very busy because it's such a nice spot. So hopefully
Yeah.
one day.
One day I was hearing about something that was kind of similar to the quarry. It was like on Texada, or is that how you say it? Texada
Zeta?
Island? I don't know.
I
There's
don't know. I've
something
never
that's like
been there.
me neither, but I've heard it from a few people. There's like an equivalent of the quarry there that has like that crystal clear water. That's
Oh,
like the
cool.
best swimming spot ever. But I want to go there one day when all this is over. But
There's this really blue lake in Strathcona too that my friend did this hike. I forget what it was called, but it's like a day hike that you have, it's like all day you hike into it. And it's this really clear lake. I don't know if it's really cold or if people actually go swimming in there, but it's clear blue. It's so cool. There's so many
beautiful.
cool spots on the island that I haven't gone to yet that I want to go to.
Me too. I know once you live here too, it's it's kind of like, oh yeah, I'll get there one day. Like I still haven't been to the trestle like Goldstream.
Right?
Been here for like
And now
6
they're blocking it all off. Well, I
Oh,
think they're like putting a big gate on it, I read, because and like well before I don't know how if they're gonna block it fully off or just on the sides, but because that teenage boy died there. And so and
no.
many people have before have died there as well. And so I think they're because there's no sides on it. It would be cool if they put it something like Kinsel Trestle. Have you been to Kinsel
No,
Trestle?
I haven't been to any of the trestles.
Like right down it's in Shawnigan here, and it's the same kind of thing, but they like redid it, and there's like nice railings on the side, and it's a nice path. And but the Goldstream one is sketchy. Like there's there's spots in between the planks that there's nothing underneath you, and it's a sketchy walk. I don't ever go. I think I've gone on it like a few planks, but it's so scary because there's nothing on either side, but you can walk all the way across it. And it's not regulated, so I think I read they are putting fences on it or something like that.
Yeah, I know that they were trying to get some like suicide prevention signs and
Mhm.
stuff there, which is good. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
tragic.
Yeah, I didn't know
Common
before
interest
that
people.
teenage boy went missing, and I followed that whole story that it was like a common place. But it makes sense, right? Like
Oh.
it's a dangerous place to be. So it's a really big drop into like a big rocky canyon kind of thing. So
Yeah.
it's scary like to actually walk across it. So yeah, that's good that they're putting a fence on it. I don't know if they'll make it into like a nice thing like Kinsel Trestle, but
Mhm.
maybe. Yeah,
Yeah.
Kinsel Trestle is really nice. It's connected onto like the Canadian Trail, or I forget, Trans Canada Trail, I think it is.
Oh, okay.
And so it's just like a flat walk, but yeah, there's
For
all
sure.
kinds of cool places around here. Yeah,
Yeah, I need to be better at like filling my weekends with that sort of stuff.
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's always an excuse. Like lately, it's like, oh, well, there's snow on the ground, so I don't want to go for a walk because there's snow.
Yeah.
But when it's warm out, I'm more inclined to go exploring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so like what else so what do you do in Shawnigan? Do you work in Shawnigan too or
No, I work in Victoria.
okay.
So,
Wow,
yeah,
that's a commute.
it is. So, yeah, I got this job when I was living in Langford. So, I work in healthcare in downtown Victoria. So,
Oh.
I will drive all the way downtown every day. So, yeah. Do you do anything other than radio, or is this your full-time job?
This is my full-time job, but I'm definitely um opening like opening my mind a little bit to other career opportunities as well. Not saying that I want to get rid of radio or anything, but it's
Yeah.
always good to have like something on the side
Yeah.
in case, especially like now I think with COVID it really like opened my eyes that like this industry is really it's really It's not the most stable as I thought it was when I first got into it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard about like the Bell layoffs and everything.
Wow.
Like full radio stations just completely being laid off. It's a very common thing in radio. It's like they just lay people off and give you half an hour to like gather your things and get out of the
Wow.
station. Um, there's just no money, like there's no money in it, I guess, and just the way that these radio stations are ran, it's
It's not as
hard.
popular, I guess, with like podcasts and music on your phone and that kind of thing. I guess it's not as popular as it was before.
Yeah, it's definitely changing. And I think that the people who are like, not, I guess, like in control of it, they're not changing as fast as the industry is changing, So I think it's eventually, I hate to be so negative, but if we continue down this route, it's like it's going to disappear. And
Right.
radio is so great. And there's like, what's so great about it is the timeliness of it, right?
Mhm.
It's so funny, the people who like listen to podcasts all the time, like myself, and then they're like, oh, I wish there was like a podcast, but I wish it were like live. And you're like, that is what radio is.
Yeah.
That's what I do. um
I've always liked like the talk part of radio before too, and then it's like, oh, they put on a song. It's like, okay, well, I'll wait till they talk again. So it's
yeah,
funny that podcasts are, yeah, like the thing that is in between the songs.
yeah, so that's exactly, and I think a lot of people confuse that with like the music, right? The
Right.
music is like a thing that's in between the talking. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
It's a secondary thing. I mean, it's songs that you hear every day, and it's the same songs over and over again because they're familiar, and it gives you like a sense of familiarity, right?
Yeah.
And there is like a piece of music discovery to it, but the reason why people keep coming back to radio, at least from what I've seen from my experience in the years, is that people connect with the people who are hosting, whether
Right.
it's
Yeah.
just, yeah, so that human interaction. And I think now like people are sitting at home by themselves all day from work, and they have the radio on in the background, and they
Mhm.
can shoot us a text and be involved in a conversation that's happening on the radio. And it just, yeah, gives you a sense of companionship, really. um, but yeah, the industry is kind of taking away all of the on-air hosts one by one, and it's just becoming music nonstop or syndicated shows.
Yeah.
So there'll be like someone from Toronto or even like LA doing a show on a Victoria station, so you're not getting the community feel. You're
Yeah.
not getting like, oh, this is happening on Johnson Street in Douglas, like this is happening right now, that sort of
They
vibe.
don't know that, yeah, when they're living in LA. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I'm just going to talk about whatever's in pop culture and leave it at that.
Right.
So yeah, I've been like doing some things on the side, like audiobooks I've been getting into lately. So just recording audiobooks and
Like your own writing of them or
no,
reading other books?
just like reading them out loud.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like when you're on Audible or whatever. And
How does that work? Like, so you just like, how did you get into that?
I know it's very random. I didn't really
It
think about
is.
that until like a few months ago, but so there is a company called ACX that teams up with authors, narrators, and Audible. So an author will like put an audition script for their book on this website, this platform, and then the narrator does an audition, and then you go through the whole process of recording it and everything, and then they get put onto Audible, like goes through like a publication process and gets put onto Audible for people to
And you
hear.
get paid for that?
Yeah.
Hmm, cool.
Yeah. It's
Never
yeah.
heard that.
I know it's weird, but I guess yeah, more people are listening to audiobooks. It's similar to podcasts, right? Just to have
Right.
something on in the background and
Yeah.
do two things at once.
Hmm. That's really
Yeah.
cool.
And then what else am I doing? Yeah, just voice stuff, I think. Stuff that I'm already able to do through the station, but just doing it on the side as well.
Yeah. What else would you want to get into? Like if, let's say, radio crashed forever, what would you want to get into?
That is a question I've been struggling with for a long time. I'm not sure. I mean, I love communication. I love music, but the music industry itself has a lot of problems and
Mhm.
is it's very similar to radio industry. They kind of go hand in hand. So I don't know if that's like
Yeah.
the thing I want to jump into.
Yeah.
But I really like voicing and voice acting, which is bringing me back to like my mom and dad being like, don't do that.
Yeah.
It's like gig based, right? So but I do really enjoy it. At least doing it on the side, I think is something I'd like to do.
Yeah.
Recently I've been getting into like car stuff.
Car stuff.
Which is
What's that? Or
uh,
what do you do with that?
so my boyfriend builds cars for fun, like Volkswagens, and he there was this one car that I've always wanted, and it was like this 86 Volkswagen Cabrio, like this small little convertible. And I saw one for sale and I was like, I'm just going to do it. And he was like, you should, because I can just fix it for you. Because that's the main thing. Getting an old car, you're like, it's just going to break down and it's going to be a
Yeah.
pit for my money. But he was like, I am willing to commit to like fixing this for you whenever it breaks down. And yeah, so you should do it because it'll bring me joy as well. And I was like, all right, I'll get my dream car. That's fine. It's super cheap, so I'll do it.
Cool.
And then he's just been like teaching me along the way. Like I feel silly. I was like, I didn't even know how to change oil when I bought this thing. And now I'm like, I'm excited to change its oil and like
Yeah.
do its
That's
brakes and
cool.
stuff. And
Yeah, fixing up cars.
yeah, and especially like old cars too, and like just the idea of like taking something old that's like ready for a scrap yard and
Yeah.
restoring it and keeping it alive. I think it's really cool.
That's really cool. Yeah, that's something I don't know much about at all. I don't
Yeah.
know. I just pass it off, yeah, to either my boyfriend or my dad or anybody that knows how to do it.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
me too. Like I was just like, I have no idea what a transmission looks like. I don't know.
Yeah.
But once I started learning it, I was like, this is very empowering in a weird way to like learn how to do everything with my hands in case I like ever, break down on the side of the road to be able to
Mhm.
at least kind of know what's going on. That's
Yeah.
good. And then like I could see myself doing some sort of like interior design. Maybe it's something I've thought about
Yeah.
in the past. 'Cause
I
I just
love
like to do
those
that.
TV shows.
Oh yeah. So good. Like before and afters. Oh,
I know. There's actually this Victoria Instagram, this page. I think these girls live in Victoria and they are like renovating their houses and doing little before and afters and they're local. And I love any show that has or page that has before and afters.
oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Or like that, there's a Netflix show that just came out or recently came out about, I think something about Dream Home or something. And these this couple, the guy does the construction and she does the interior like usual.
I've
And
seen it.
it's
Yeah.
so good. Yeah, they're in Texas or something. And that's where the houses are so cheap. I always see those shows and the houses are like 100 grand. It's like, what? What do you mean?
I can't even get a condo for that amount here now.
You don't even know.
Oh,
Yeah. So
yeah.
yeah, I love watching those shows. I'd love to do that too. But it seems again like there's not much money in it, but
That's the problem with like
all the
anything
things we
creative.
want
I'm
to
just like, no money in anything I do. I just like
do.
to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's ways around it, I guess.
How much
Um,
do you get paid per audiobook, or is it different each audiobook?
so it's different per audiobook. There's different ways that you can get paid. You can just do royalties. So like from every sale, you get a percentage of the royalties, like 50%, which is like pennies really.
Right.
Um, so you can do it that way. If you know the book is going to sell well, then it might be worth it, but not really. You can do per finished hour of audio,
Mm.
which is what I like to do, and that depends. It could be anywhere from $50 to $1,000 per finished hour of audio.
Hmm.
And with every hour of audio, it takes about, I want to say, average. If you're not super comfortable with production, then it'd probably be like 6 hours worth of work for 1 hour of audio, right? So
Wow.
it is a lot of work. It's very tedious because you have to re-say everything and make sure you get the right tone and cut out all the breaths and everything and make it sound good.
Yeah.
But it can be worth it if you get the right project.
Wow.
Which I've
That's
learned
so
the hard
crazy.
way.
6 hours per hour.
What was that?
6 hours per hour of.
Yeah, usually.
book.
Yeah.
How I've never listened to, or I don't usually listen to like audiobooks. How many hours is a regular like novel?
Well, I haven't done any really long ones because I just don't want to
Yeah.
commit to it, but there are ones that are like 16 hours.
Oh my goodness.
I've only done like, I think the longest one I've done is like 5.5 hours,
Yeah.
which was like, yeah, a marathon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's
I
so
learned a lot doing it. I did this one book that was like a political book called Soft Power, which is like a great book for someone who's interested in that. And it uh there was so many different names that I couldn't pronounce, so a lot of the time was just me like looking up how to pronounce things and like figured out. And yeah, it wasn't good, and it was only royalty, so didn't get paid at all, and I was so stressed out the whole time, and I mean the content was like the author did a great job, but not for
Yeah.
me.
Oh my goodness. That'd be so
Yeah.
crazy. I've never heard of that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to have like I've watched some things about finances and stuff, and they say you should have like multiple streams of income, and eventually I would like people that are big time in podcasts make money from podcasts, but I
Mhm.
mean I don't make money from podcasts. It's just something I do in my free time. I'm not sure how to really monetize it, but I guess from ads in the podcast, but I'm not sure how people make other money off of podcasts. But yeah, it's interesting to have lots of different little things going on that can make you money.
Yeah, I think like you could definitely make money off of the podcast you do with like just with your platform, like local businesses coming on to a platform,
Yeah.
if they want to do like giveaways or whatever, or have an ad in
Yeah.
between where you just stop and record a little ad for them, like there's definitely money in it. But it also, once money starts getting into play, it's like, is it a hobby? Is it something that you love, or is it turn into work? Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Right now it's just a
Yeah.
hobby, and it's my choice to maybe eventually turn it into some kind of little business. But I think it needs to get a little bit bigger before that happens. And I can kind of say, oh, well, I have this money. I'm on the Canadian charts or whatever I can say. And then might be more appealing to people, because bigger businesses that I've emailed or DM'd are like, oh, they want to know all my stats and they want to know who's going to be listening. I'm like, I don't really know who's listening, but this is what I know. We're in Canada, but yeah, it's interesting. They want to know who's listening and how many people it'll reach and that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
as the bigger businesses kind of get involved, it'll be more of that kind of a business strategy like that. So down the road, it might be more of a business. People always think this is like my full-time job. It's so funny.
Oh
I
yeah.
get so many emails being like, how do you do this as a job? And I'm like, I make zero money doing that.
It's so funny, like the perception of like people who talk or like are on TV or have a platform of some sort, they just automatically assume that because they know of you and they don't know you personally, it's like, oh, you make money. You're like,
Yeah.
no, I just am doing it for fun, like I just like it, I don't know.
It's so funny. I know I never thought that people thought that, but then it's surprising how many people are like in conversation, or they just randomly message me or like, how do you do this as a job? It's like, what?
You
I
tell me, I
actually
don't
have a
know.
full-time job that I go to, and I just post on social media at night. So
Yeah.
I only answer my DMs when I'm at home. So yeah, it's so funny. It's like I don't do it full time.
Would you want to?
I would want to. I think that I could definitely do it as a regular thing, but there would have to be enough money in it. But yeah, I think at least starting to monetize it, and then I could slowly kind of transition. But I think even at the highest like rate that I could go doing it, I don't think that it would make as much money as like a regular full-time job, but it could be like a part-time thing.
Totally.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've yeah, I always watch YouTube videos and Google how to do things differently. And yeah, I'm trying to put it out there more and promote it more. I only had an Instagram page until this weekend. I worked on a little website for it, and then I also worked on a Facebook page for it because some people are on Facebook and some people are on Instagram. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'm trying to promote it more and see how that goes. Sometimes I fall off the Instagram and the social media wagon for a while and I get back on and then but I'm definitely not a consistent poster.
Oh, I feel you. I just do like the like interview sort of aspect of it and then the editing aspect.
Yeah.
That's what I like to do. And Crystal, like the co-host of the Rag, she does all of the social media and like businessy side of it,
Yeah.
which is a blessing because I don't like to spend my time doing that and like promoting that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not good at it. I think it's like it's a real skill, you know, and to
It's
make
such
it
a
like
learning curve. Like I didn't know that so much was in it. So much
yeah.
goes into it and so much the algorithm and the hashtags and whatever. Like I don't know, I didn't know it was so complicated. Like when I just had my personal page, I would like post whatever and didn't
Yeah.
care who followed me and who liked it and whatever. And so yeah, it's so interesting actually learning and looking at the analytics and what time is the best time to post. It's like what.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so crazy, the learning all of it, and that's what I like about it too. I'm learning all this new stuff, and so yeah, it's really all learning.
Yeah, that's cool though.
Yeah.
Were you saying you were getting into like personal finances too? Like you're listening to videos about finances?
Yeah, well, I've watched some videos about yeah, like personal finances and like trying to because in the next few years I'd like to like buy a house and like do the adult stuff and then and so I've watched some videos on YouTube and TikTok and there's all kinds of videos out there about how to kind of save and get ahead and those kind of things. And so yeah, that's definitely something that recently has become more of a in reach thing for me that I'm wanting to save more money and get ahead and buy a house and be an adult. So
Yeah, I'm the same
yeah.
boat as you too right now. Like just in the last like few months, I'm like, okay, I have to start taking my finances seriously. And I was just so amazed at yeah, the amount of information there is online. Again, I'm not surprised because it's
Too
online
much.
everything, but like I just never paid attention to it until this year and like
No.
pandemic times where I'm like, oh, I should really figure out my finances. I should, yeah, get out of debt, you know?
I know. And actually the girl that I just had on here before you, she's a real estate agent. So I was asking her all these questions about real estate and first time home buyers and that kind of thing. Cause that's kind of what I want to know right now. I don't know if everyone else wants to know about that, but yeah, it's interesting. Just like me, I can do all these interviews and learn stuff for myself almost selfishly. And then you guys
Yeah,
can listen and see and you don't have to listen to every episode. Not all of it's relevant to you, right? And so I kind of like those. I tried to kind of model my podcast around ones that I liked. And so
mhm,
some of the ones that I like, you don't have to listen to every episode to follow it or anything. It's you could jump in anywhere you want and listen to this one, but not that one because you don't like that person or you don't care about that topic. So that's kind of what I wanted to do with this one. And that's kind of like what you guys do too, right? I was looking at some of your podcasts and each one is different, right?
totally. Yeah. So yeah, with the rag, it's just whatever topic like we think like or we that we want to learn about.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, I've learned so much from having that podcast. Like,
Yeah.
holy, like I'm ashamed to say how much I've learned, you know, and how much I didn't know before doing a lot of these episodes. And it just makes me think like I know nothing. I know absolutely nothing. And I'm so happy these people are willing to share their stories and their expertise because it's helpful to me and hopefully, yeah, helpful to the listener as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
really cool.
the things that people just go through quietly and silently by themselves and
Yeah.
don't talk about, I think is like wild.
How do you find your guests?
Um, you know, it started us like really looking for our guests and approaching people, and then now we find that people just approach us, which is nice. And you know, like for example, the most recent one we had was one of my like really good friends. She just had she'd gone through IVF.
Mm-hmm.
So she was dealing with infertility, and she also just is in the works of becoming a sexual health educator. And she just reached out to me and was like, hey, I know this is weird because we're friends, but I really think that this is an important topic to talk about because I didn't know anything going into the process of IVF, and I
Wow.
felt really, scared and alone before going into it, and I had no idea what to expect, and it was completely different once I went through it. And I would love to share my story with that. And then there's a coworker of mine who him and his partner went through a miscarriage, and I had no idea. And he was like, I haven't told anyone this, and I want this platform to be like my story, and like the way I can like tell the public and my loved ones about what we are going through as a couple. And I thought that was really beautiful. And
Cool. Yeah.
yeah. And then there's ones where we're like, oh, we really want to talk to like a sexual health educator about just sex and kinks and things like that, because we're just curious.
Yeah.
um but yeah, and I'm sure like you're finding that too with your podcast. It's like the more you do, the easier it's all kind of becoming and falling into
Definitely.
place.
It was such a grind at the beginning. I like would message like 20 companies and be like, "Hey, you want to be part of my podcast?" And now people just are messaging me and or hearing some like their friend got interviewed and then they're like, "Hey, I heard from you through so and so." And yeah, it's really it is easier now. And it's
Right.
you'd think it would get harder and you have to keep going, but no, it's like doing the work for itself now. It's so interesting.
Yeah, right, that's such a thing. And I think it's now that you have like a catalog of things that people can listen to and kind of get an understanding of what they might get out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, then I think it, yeah, definitely becomes easier.
Yeah, yeah. Now you can show what you're all about, not just have it as a vision in your head, what you're gonna
Absolutely.
do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's definitely getting easier and it kind of does itself. So yeah, it's really cool. And it's just something I do on my days off. So
Right.
it's nice.
There you go. That's when like you're doing the right thing, I feel, and it all just kind of falls into place like that.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like things are good. We're okay. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I like it. And then I just started doing the Zoom calls and then I just started posting those on YouTube so people can watch as well. And so because I've read on some websites and saw on some videos that that's a good way for people to view it, but it hasn't really caught on yet, but
Hmm.
we'll see if it does. So, and it's easy on Zoom.
Right.
In-person interviews might be harder to film when we can do in person, but yeah, I don't know. It's just it's easy to do. You can just upload the video from Zoom onto YouTube. So
Oh, sweet. So you just do it straight from Zoom. That's
yeah.
wicked.
Yeah, you just it saves on your computer and you just go ding, and I don't know, you could edit it, I guess. I'm not sure how to do that, but I just put the whole video up on YouTube and it takes 2 seconds. So,
Well,
yeah,
that's
easy.
oh, okay. I'm glad I know about that. I'm like, I was wondering if you did any editing, because I was like, what if I say
No.
something that I don't like? Or no,
I
it's out there.
well, on the YouTube version, I don't know how to edit that, or on the video version, I don't know how to edit that, but I also record it on another tab on Audacity, and then I can edit the audio, and that's the part that goes on to the podcast apps. And so the one on YouTube is unedited totally, but
Fun.
sometimes I'll edit the one that goes on the podcast app if there's like a big long pause or something, but I honestly just don't know how to edit the video, so I don't.
I'm not good at video editing. It takes me so long.
I tried to and it wasn't uploading and I was like, I don't know. So I just uploaded the regular one. Whatever. You
Yeah.
just have to live with what you say. So
Live with
yeah.
what you say.
Yeah. Live with what you say.
That's really
So
good.
yeah, it's interesting. I'm still learning as I go. So yeah. And I'd love to like meet more podcast hosts and people on Vancouver Island.
Hmm.
I've started listening to this one podcast called Island Crimes, and they're about Vancouver Island crimes. I don't know if she lives on Vancouver Island, but she talks all about Vancouver Island crimes, which is
Cool.
really cool. But I don't know any other like many other Vancouver Island podcasts. I feel like I'm sure they're out there, but yeah, I'm not sure. I'd love to like podcast with them and meet them and talk to them because I feel like it's such like a niche thing that people do. Feel like there's not that many people out there, but there probably is.
But at the same time, everyone always says like now everyone has a podcast, which I think
Yeah.
there's truth in that. Like there must be. It must come from somewhere. But
Yeah.
I think you're right. Like it is hard to find like specific like regional podcasts on Spotify. Like you can type in Victoria and hope that something sticks, but
Hmm.
it'd be cool if there was like yeah, like a full platform where it was like region specific.
Yeah, and I'd love to like feature Vancouver Island podcasts if I knew of more of them, right? Like I'd love to do some kind of like podcast thing for Vancouver Island people because yeah, I'm not sure how many there are, but I feel like there's not that many. Maybe in a big city there's everyone has a podcast, but
Mhm.
I don't know. I've put it out there on my Instagram and been like, "Do you know of local podcast people?" But like, and nobody answers. So I don't know,
Oh,
like who. I don't know, but I feel like there's sure. I'm sure there is.
yeah. Yeah, there's I mean there's a few at our station, but
Yeah, I looked on your
maybe for the
website. Yeah,
crew.
you guys have 3 or 4, right?
Yeah, and then I know that like the people at Czech have a few podcasts, but again,
Okay.
it's related to Czech. And I know a few other people in radio who have like podcasts too, but it'd be cool to like hear from people who aren't in radio. I feel like I'm like so drenched in that.
Yeah.
Or like it's cool to hear, yeah, someone who just like has a cool hobby or just like does it for fun,
Yeah.
work related too.
Yeah, it would be so cool if it was your job though. Like if you could do it through your work,
Yeah.
that'd be so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the whole advertising thing though, like
Right. Yeah.
and then it becomes work instead of a nice hobby.
Yes. You have to decide whether you want to do that or not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Cool. Well, thanks for doing the episode with me.
Yeah, thank you for having me. That was such a
Thank you.
treat. I
Yeah.
never get to be on podcasts. I love it.
I know. It's such a weird thing to reverse the role, but since
Yeah.
we've both been on podcasts, it's kind of a back and forth, which is nice. It's not just me prying information.
Right.
Sometimes it's like that. It's like, oh, but
Yeah.
it's nice to chat with another podcaster.
Yeah, it's really nice to
Yeah.
chat with you. Nice meeting you. And hopefully when all of this is done, which is the panorama or whatever, we'll be able to meet in person sometime.
Exactly. I would love
Yeah.
to meet everybody that I've done Zoom calls with. I would love to actually meet them and not just be over Instagram and Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember
I'll
when
put
like networking and like meeting people in bars was a thing? I
I
love that.
know. One day we'll do that.
Yeah. All
Okay.
right.
Have a
Well,
good night.
nice chatting with you.
Nice to chat with you. Bye.